When residents of this port city wake up, even if there wasn't a storm that night, they regularly find some streets flooded simply from high tides. It's a far cry from the storm surges brought by Sandy further up the coast, but that superstorm, which hit the week before Election Day, brought to the surface the issue of rising sea levels, the vulnerability of coastal cities, and what can be done to protect them. In national exit polls, 64% of voters said that President Obama's response to the hurricane was a factor in their decision.
What I'm going to be doing over the next several weeks, next several months, is having a conversation, a wide-ranging conversation with scientists, engineers, and elected officials to find out what more can we do.
Mr. Obama might look to Norfolk, where they have been having those conversations for years.
As we get more high tides, and the high tides seem to get higher, and we get more of these storms, and they seem to come with a little more fury, we get more and more water in our city as the days go by. And so we're taking it very seriously. We talk about it nearly monthly, and we're planning for it.
Mayor Paul Frame, a Democrat, has been leading the charge and was the first elected official in the country to say parts of his city might not be livable in just 15 years.
We're raising homes, we're raising roads, but we're also, retreating very slowly from some of the shoreline so we don't spend money raising houses that when the next storm comes through here, they'll be, damaged again.
Mr. Obama won the battleground state of Virginia 51% to 48% over Mitt Romney. His victory was helped by taking 56% of the vote in the state's southeast tidewater region that is home to Norfolk. Here, where streets like this are frequently underwater, some people are hoping the election means political debate about climate change may be over.
In the last month, in the month of October, we've seen this neighborhood is flooded 3 times.
Skip Stiles heads Wetlands Watch, a local environmental group that works throughout the state. He took us to another vulnerable area downtown.
This is an old apartment building. It's been here since 1904. So, the sort of abstract notion of, we've had 1.5 feet of sea level rise over the last 100 years. We can sort of mark it against this building because we had a nor'easter in 2006. It came about here. It's about where Sandy came. And if you think about it, 100 years ago, that same storm would have been 1.5 feet down. It wouldn't even have touched this building. And the problem is 100 years going forward, if you go up 3 feet, in 100 years, this sort of middle-of-the-road nor'easter is suddenly as high as the storm of record that we had in 1933.
The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration finds Norfolk is the second most vulnerable area its size to sea level rise in the country, right behind New Orleans. Norfolk is particularly prone to flooding because of its location, flanked by the Atlantic Ocean, the Chesapeake Bay, and the James River. It is also slowly sinking. The city is home to roughly 250,000 people, a major port, and the world's largest naval base. It is of critical importance to our national security. Nearly 45% of the city's economy is tied to defense spending, and in response to sea level rise, the Navy has been replacing 14 piers at a cost of $35 to $40 million apiece.
Sea level here is coming up for lots of reasons, and there's just no reason for it to go down. It just keeps coming up.
Larry Atkinson heads the Climate Change and Sea Level Rise Institute at Old Dominion University.
Well, there's kind of anecdotal evidence, and then there's real evidence from the tide gauges that we have. I mean, we can measure this. The science is simple.
Atkinson is part of a team of scientists the state of Virginia has hired to study flooding. An early draft of the bill in the state assembly that funded the study grew criticism from some conservatives. The Virginia Tea Party described the study on its website as, quote, more wasted tax dollars for more ridiculous studies designed to separate us from our money and control all land and water use. The final bill avoided the phrases sea level rise and climate change and won overwhelming bipartisan support this year.
Some people have tried to spin it into a political issue because we changed the wording from sea level rise to flooding.
Republican State Delegate Chris Stoley changed the language in the legislation. He argues the problem is real, no matter what you call it.
We wanted this study not to get caught up in that discussion of sea level rise. We want to know, what are we going to do for the folks here in Norfolk and Tidewater and Virginia Beach to stop the water from coming in their doors?
To do that, Norfolk is taking a number of steps to protect its residents and keep them dry. But when a big storm does hit, the greatest challenge this city faces is getting its vulnerable residents to safety in time.
it would take at least 36 hours to get the folks out here who we identify in those low-lying areas to get out.
Jim Reddick directs Norfolk's Office of Emergency Management.
And we know that it's going to be a challenge for folks to heed the warning because, again, chances are it'll be a bright sunny day. Folks won't want to leave.
Bob Parsons lives in one of the most vulnerable areas of the city. He's kept track with pictures of the many times water has lapped up to his door, as it did with Sandy, even though that storm landed much further north.
If Sandy were to come close or directly into Norfolk, I think we'd all be in big trouble. I think most of the city would be underwater. There's no way out of here unless you leave days and days ahead of the storm.
But he's the type of resident that worries emergency manager Reddick most.
Personally, I'm not inclined to leave until someone in a boat pulls up to the front door and says, "Get in." You know, otherwise, we'll stay on the second floor and hope we stay above it.
From the markers he keeps on his garage door of water lines in the past, when a big storm hits, staying above the surge might be difficult.
The high water marks on my garage are probably not a good selling point for the property, but I like to have an idea and keep a record of what we have here. And I started keeping these records in 2003 for Isabel.
Because Norfolk is nearly surrounded by water, the main ways out of the area in an emergency funnel to a set of just a few tunnels and bridges.
Our traffic is horrific in this area, and so when you compound the traffic and the flooding at certain times of the year and during storms, it's really the perfect storm.
Dr. Terry Whibley is a physician in town and on the city council.
We have so much to do, and we have so many needs that we are considered one of the forerunners, is always the ultimate irony. But we have, I think, taken good measures to try to figure out what's going to be our best approach.
4 years ago, the city hired the Dutch engineering firm WHRO to study the threats to the city.
The focus of our efforts and our study and evaluations are really on coastal flooding.
Kevin Smith is WHRO's chief engineer on the project.
We've evaluated up to a 100-year type of storm event.
And what would be the impact on the city?
The impact is significant.
They have recommended building seawalls and elevating homes. The price tag would be a little more than $1 billion. For that, the city will need help from the state and the federal government. The election following Sandy brought a renewed focus on bipartisanship and the need to invest in storm protection. But Mayor Frame will be competing with other coastal areas to secure much-needed federal dollars.
There's a huge investment by the nation in its national defense here, and we're the only home for nuclear aircraft carriers on the entire Atlantic coast. We're worth preserving, for sure. It's something that's happening to us. We sense it, we know it, we've studied it, and now we're trying to prepare for it.
With the cost of repairing the damage from Sandy now totaling more than $50 billion for New York and New Jersey alone, cities like Norfolk are working hard to invest to protect themselves before the next big storm hits.